think for me, the stuff that gets me scared is the unknown. Like, what does the macro environment look like, right? Because that is such a huge factor that a lot of people don't even consider. I mean, look at what's happening in the commercial real estate market right now. You have all these guys who went out, underwrote deals at a 3 cap, and they're like, oh, maybe rates get to 5% at some point. And they didn't underwrite a worst case scenario, which is where we are now, 8%, 9% rates.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. We have my first interview out of 700 in a hostage camp. We have him.
Yeah.
He's given us proof of life. I told him that his office looks like a... Dude, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing freaking great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Somebody told me something the other day, a business partner that I met like 5 minutes before I left for Pennsylvania, like the day before. Like my buddy begged me, he's like, you gotta like meet this guy. And I was like, whatever. So I drove an hour and a half. I go meet this guy. We meet for 5 minutes.
You swore like, whatever, and you drove an hour and a half?
Yeah. But like for me, like 8 hours is like a typical day drive. I'm good. We just drove back 20 hours from Texas. So I said, fine, I'll go meet him. He was in HVAC. He sold his company. I wanted to meet him. And so we get 5 minutes in, and I'm like, boom, done. Now we're in 2 businesses together, right? I felt the same way when I met you in Missouri. It's like, people just have that like flow, and you're like, I like this guy, right?
Yeah.
And there's another guy that I met at an event, at one of Parker's events, and he was like, look, I meet a lot of people, but they don't have the full like integrity, energy, good person. Like they don't have the whole spectrum. He's like, when I met you, he's like, I knew it. And that's the same way I feel about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. I mean, the feeling is mutual. It's really hard whenever you go to those conferences and you're like trying to get to know people and everybody's lying. You know what I mean? They're like talking about, oh yeah, I did a deal for $10 million, or, oh yeah, I just met so-and-so. And you're like, is this all we're going to talk about? We're just going to lie the whole time? But dude, just talking to you, you're so authentic, so real with how you felt about things. Like what you're going through right now in Pennsylvania is breath of fresh air. Definitely a breath of fresh air.
It's so weird. It's like I described to one of my mentors a couple minutes ago. It's like you're out all year. We've been in the woods. It's dark. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a game of Hunger Games. I am 5 feet from the tree line, and I'm like 2 weeks from making it out, but I don't know if I'm going to get shot in that 5 feet. Like that's small business in a nutshell. Like, you're so excited about this booked revenue that you have, but you got to make it through the holidays, right? You're so excited about the things that you're going to create, but you got to make it through this day or that week. And one of the conversations I've been having with my fiance the last couple of weeks is I don't think people respect how much stress and brain power it takes to be an owner, an investor. Like always, John Wilson talks about this. Look, I got 10 companies. We're going to do 24 million this year, but I've been dealing with Friday payroll for 10 years.
It's real, man.
He's like, it's not like it goes away.
No, and it never goes away. And there's always like something new. Do you know what I mean? Like just when you think like, okay, cool, we finally got the payroll stuff taken care of. Then all of a sudden you're like in a lawsuit for labor law. You're like, this wasn't even on my radar. You know what I mean? Or, hey, we got to upgrade our tech stack. Or we got to make sure that our email's HIPAA compliant. And you're like, wasn't even on my radar. And now I'm freaking dealing with this. It's DEFCON 3. It's every day it's something different.
So what I want guests to do, give them a quick couple-minute overview, who you are, what you do, and then we'll keep rolling from there.
Yeah, so my name is Nik Hulewsky. I'm from California, born and raised. Went to the University of Southern California undergrad, got my MBA from UCLA, and I was in healthcare, have been in healthcare, I should say, for the last 15 years. First 10 years of that, I was in the corporate space, got some good experience. And then I went out on my own, bought a medical billing company in 2020, bought a staffing company, bought a coding company, and then I started a home health and a hospice company all at the same time. It was freaking nuts. And then a year ago, we sold our medical billing company, staffing company, and then 6 months ago, I just sold my home health and hospice company. So I've had a couple exits in the last few years, and honestly, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing next. Our medical
Mhm.
billing company was about a $6 million company. The home health and hospice was about a $10 million company. Those were all bootstrapped. Did those with investors, and this is the first time I've like taken a breath and had a
Mhm.
chance to think, okay, what's next? And there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
I'd like to do. I like to make fun of gurus, but I think it's deep down because I actually like the coaching piece of it. Like I
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
love talking to people and helping them work through
Mhm.
problems. And then I see these gurus out there who are doing the thing that I would love to do, which is teach. Except they're like taking advantage of people, and I can't help but make fun of them because it's ridiculous what they do. Anyways, that's uh, that's my background in a nutshell. Live in Eagle, Idaho. Have 4 kids, 4 boys at home, 4 boys under the age of 9, and life's awesome.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net.
I think one of the things that excites me the most that I don't think enough people talk about is everybody. When my grandfather grew up, my grandfather and both my great grandparents and my grandparents worked at the same company for 65 plus years.
Wow.
DuPont, Budweiser. My one great grandfather worked there for 70 years. You know, like
Where,
that whole
where,
thing.
like where
Beaumont,
geographically?
Texas. So Beaumont,
Okay.
Texas. My grandfather worked for Budweiser. My great grandfather worked for Budweiser from 15 to 91. He retired 6 times. They kept bringing him back. He was in the horse and buggy delivering beer, like no BS. Like he was the mayor of South Texas, right? My grandfather and my grandmother worked for DuPont for 60 years, and that's what they did. But nowadays, right? I read a stat a couple months ago that a millennial will have 19 careers before it's all said and done. And I think that we need to embrace the seasons of our life. And there is something to be said for that 6 month, 2 month, 3 month, year slowdown to attack with the right vision, the right energy,
Yeah.
something that we care about, right? My business partner did the same thing. He exited the company, decided he wanted to spend time with his 2 young girls, took 6 months off, coached on the side, but then like, okay, this is what I want to do. And now he's crystal clear on what he's doing. How was those first, you've kind of been selling, so it's not like it happened and you were out, but how were those first couple weeks when you started like throttling down? Did you lose your mind?
So
How did that
no,
go?
that's a really good question. Something I've been thinking about a lot actually. So I sold the medical billing company a year and a half ago, but I still had this home health and hospice that was growing like a weed. Within 2 years, it went from zero to $10 million in revenue
Mm.
a year. So grew like crazy. And then after it sold, I had some other investments on the side that I've been doing with mobile home park guy Chris. So we have a mobile home park that we own together. We have a Bitcoin mining facility. We have an AI automation company that we're working. Anyways, so we have like a lot of things. So I kind of didn't stop. I just shifted my focus from home health and hospice to those other things that we were doing. And about 2 months ago, no, not even 2 months ago, a month ago, right after Main Street, I started thinking, okay, I know that I just put my head down and shifted my focus to something else, but is that the best thing? Like, am I doing the best thing? Am I focusing on the right things? And it's been really weird in the last few weeks as I've been like looking through that lens for the first time where I'm like, I could do anything that I want
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
And I don't have like I have to make my mortgage. Like, yes, I have to pay my
Yes.
mortgage, but I have enough money to pay my mortgage for a good amount of time. And so I can figure out what I'm doing next as opposed to constantly be, okay, I got to get a job so I can pay my bills. Oh, I got to get a job so I can send my kids to this camp or whatever. But when you're in that moment, you're just like constantly trying to figure something out to solve the problem at hand. And then all of a sudden, when you have some money from an exit, you can take a step back. It's a very weird feeling because you're like, okay, I don't need to be doing the stuff that I'm doing right now. Is this the best use of my time? What does my life look like a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now? And that process has been really interesting. To your point.
So my favorite thing in the world to tell people is there's only two things that always find a place if you don't have a place for them: time and money. And it's the truth, right? Is that we don't even allow ourselves the day. We become a 7-day-a-week society with Bitcoin and online and trading this and AI. It's 24/7. You have a business in your hand. I run all my stuff from this. You have a business in your hand, and so you never turn it off. And the fact of the matter is, what I did is I accidentally did something that I've always wanted to do, but it gave me so much clarity, and it was weird. And I realized that when I made the shift and I got divorced, and I was making some bigger business moves, and we were changing the partnerships, and we were going after stuff that we hadn't gone after before, I took an RV trip for 2 years. And I didn't realize that the expansion of traveling and the nature walks and the state parks gave my mind the space to roam into this new world. If I would have done this at home, I don't think I would have had the same epiphanies. But when you can just pick up your RV, I don't like this place, boom, I'm going. And and it was kind of like I'm literally working below mountains overlooking a sunset while I'm interviewing people, thinking this is fucking great, right?
Yeah.
But then then life catches up with you and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing. But what I've done for me, and I'd be curious to hear your question, I've always had long, and call them a week, call them 2 weeks, I've had intentional conversations with myself, knowing what I'm about to sign up for. Knowing that, like, it's almost like you're grabbing your weapons for war and you're like, okay, the biggest shift for me in the last 2 years has been to not be upset with slow seasons in my life.
How do you not? Yeah, that's a
because there's gonna no. I'm not saying I'm content. I'm saying try not to be upset. But what I'm saying is there's gonna come a time 3 weeks from now or a month from now you're gonna go, fuck, I'm really busy. And if you didn't take that time to rest, you're not gonna be ready for the busy.
Yeah. I think one thing that I've always done a good job at is carving out white space. Like, so time for me to sit and think, how are things going? I heard, I don't know, a few years ago, Bill Gates does this thing every single year where he goes to Epstein Island. No, I'm just kidding. He does this thing every year.
I was like, I was listening and I was like, oh, that caught me.
Well, anyways, he does this thing every year called Think Week. So he goes to a cabin in the woods, he takes a bag of books, and he just reads. He doesn't have his phone with him, like nothing. He just reads. And so I've tried to emulate that every year. I don't do a full week, but where it's like I don't have anything planned. I have a couple of books, and I'm just thinking about my life and my businesses. So I feel like I've done a good job of that. But what I haven't done a good job of is like thinking about a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, whatever long-term plan. And for me, that's been a weird shift because I've been okay with slow seasons in the past, right? I'm like, okay, this is just where we are. I know it's going to get crazy down the road, but what I haven't like grappled with is, okay, what am I doing today that's going to affect what's going to happen in 5 years? I've always just felt like, well, 5 years is going to work out. I've got my 1-year plan. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's caused me to undershoot some of my goals. Like, I think people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And I've done a poor job of planning long term. So right now I'm kind of thinking about, all right, what do the next 5 years look like? Mm-hmm. What's a big, crazy goal?
And most people don't write those 5-year goals because they don't want to be held accountable for them. And what I try to explain to them is that write it with a pencil. Like, Okay, so here's the trick I do. This is something for you. I'll give it to everybody. When I coach somebody, I have them write a 5-year vision down within the first week or two. Okay, that vision is very, let's call it for somebody else. Let's call it what they think they need, and then we coach for like 3 weeks to like a month, and then I have them write it again. It's totally different.
Okay, what does the vision look like? I'm curious because I'm like going through this process.
I can send it to you afterwards. What do I want my health to be? How much do I contribute in charities? What am I doing? Where am I investing? Who am I hanging around? How many trips a year are we taking? How many? What cars am I driving? Down to the color of the car. You know, really projecting yourself
so
out.
Like a very specific template.
Oh yeah. It's like 40 questions. Like it's like dialed in.
Is this something you created, or did you like go online, find this?
I got it from an earlier mentor, and I've always rode with it. I have a different set of questions to get me to understand you, but this is a great barometer to kind of pick out your life. It's from a mastermind that we joined back in the day, and it's always stuck because there's a certain things like there's a group out there called GoBundance, and it's 200, and I think there's more now.
What's it called?
So it's GoBundance. It's like 300 plus 400 millionaires, but they're whole life millionaires, and they have 7 pillars, right?
Whole life millionaires.
It's just not about cash. It's about how much they contribute to the community. They go build homes and.
That sounds like a pyramid scheme.
No, it's
you want
a
to be
good
a whole
group
life
of guys.
millionaire? No, I'm sure it is.
But, okay, calm down over there and let me get through this. But the thing they do that literally is scary and makes me sweat just thinking about it, and I guarantee you nobody's doing this. They make you literally write out the 4 things in each category you're going to do with all of your finances, your investment, your credit cards, your bills, what you expend, and you have to stand up in a room full of 40 people and present it.
Really?
Yes, and you have 40 business savages there ripping apart where you're spending money, where you're invested, how focused you are on your business. Oh yeah, it's called the One Sheet, and it's like change more people's lives because they can't run from it anymore. And,
is it a yearly thing? Is it a monthly thing? Like
yeah, it's a yearly thing. It's a yearly thing. They stand up, they do a yearly retreat with their group, and then boom, they pull it up. And my question to you is like, let's use it in a different context. Let's use it in alcohol, right, or addiction. Like, how many things do we keep hidden until somebody sees it, and then we're trying to cover it up, right? Well, that's what we do in our finances. That's what we do in our investments. Like, and what I found is like the thing that I'm hanging on the last couple of weeks is like, if I can speak my truths, no matter what they are, then I can lay down on my head with a clear presence. I can let my soul rest. But if I don't speak my truths and I lie about what's going on and I don't speak facts, the thing that happens when you get higher in business is you realize there's a lot of people that aren't scared of a business that needs a little work. And I think that when you become an investor, you think, oh, this real estate investment, this business needs to look amazing. Dude, I had a guy tell me, he goes, 3 years. We didn't get a return on this HVAC company for 3 years because we were pulling out of the dumps. Now we do 25% margins. He's like, but we knew we were heading in the right direction. I'm like, that's amazing. I never heard that before, right? And and as you get more seasoned as an investor, you understand that there's some warts on the business is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of the warts on the business. That's something I'm pretty confident in, is the ability to go in, assess, make a plan, work with the team. I think for me, the stuff that gets me scared is the unknown. Like, what does the macro environment look like? Right? Mm-hmm. Because that is such a huge factor that a lot of people don't even consider. I mean, look at what's happening in the commercial real estate market right now. You have all these guys who went out, underwrote deals at a 3 cap, and they're like, oh, maybe rates get to 5% at some point. And they didn't underwrite a worst case scenario, which is where we are now, 8%, 9% rates. Mm-hmm. And they're screwed because they took out either construction loans or they took out a short-term bridge loan in order to get them to close the deal. And now they've got a recap, but the recap, that it's not going to be a cash out refi. It's a cash in refi that they're going to have a capital call with their LPs. You know, like they're just in a really bad position. And I think about that a lot, where it's like you have your known knowns and then you have your sort of known unknowns, but then there are the unknown unknowns. Like, those guys did not plan for rates hitting 8%. Okay. You know what I mean? So it's like, what am I missing?
I'm going to share you a story that you're going to love. This changed my life. Okay, what a lot of people don't know about me is I worked private equity back in the day. When I was transitioning out of the restaurant business, I worked for my buddy, and we lended money to small developers for commercial loans of construction and houses. So I saw the insides of a lot of these things. On Christmas, I sat in a room in San Antonio with the Texas Builders Association. Dude, we're talking about the monsters, dude. We're talking about we're talking about dudes that are pumping, millions and billions of dollars making it a year. And I looked at those 150 builders in that room. And I thought about the global economy. I thought about Texas booming. And I said, the only way these guys lose is their ego. That's the only way. The demand is there.
Yeah.
I mean, there were neighborhoods getting 500 applicants after they were already sold if they fell out, okay? But then I started lending money to them. And this guy's got 9 hard money loans across 9 different private money investors doing 9 different projects. And you're going, dude, bro, how about you finish some deals, right? And so you say they didn't know what they were doing. The reason I started exiting out of real estate during COVID is because nothing made sense anymore. There's rules to investing. When it stopped making sense, I was like, I can't be a part of this. Like, I'm a gunslinger like you've never seen, but it has to at least make sense.
Well, and that's part of the thing I'm grappling with right now is when COVID hit, I didn't have a ton of money in the stock markets. I don't know, 70 grand, like that I was playing with, not like a 401k, but like that was my money. And in February, I kind of freaked out because I'm like, this virus in China is going to be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get, so I get out of the markets crash. And then mid-March or April, I buy back into the markets.
Sure.
Because I'm like, okay, they're too beaten down. And one of the best investments I've ever made.
Sure.
But then I sold. Then I was like, you know what? 3x on my money? It's pretty good. I don't think the market's going to do much better. And I missed out on like another 3x essentially, right?
Sure.
And I think about that in this context where you're like, everybody wants to be Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you would have put $1,000 into Amazon in 1999, you'd have $20 million today. Or if you would have put $10,000 in Berkshire Hathaway, you'd be a billionaire. It's like, okay, but would you have held?
Yes.
Would you have held when your 10,000 turned into 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million? Right? Like, yeah, it's worth a billion today, but what about all those other points along the way? Like, what level of conviction do you have that you're going to be able to hold?
Here's my thing. My number one issue with investing is people are trying to invest to get out of something instead of investing into enhance a life they already have. Great.
Yes. And that's the piece that I'm like grappling with because I bought and sold this medical billing company pretty quickly. I've been in and out of stocks, and now I'm like, I don't necessarily need to get out of these positions. Like when you're accumulating money, you're in this mindset of like, I've got to make it and protect it. And then you get to like this point where you have enough money, you don't need to be thinking about the short term, oh, I got to lock this gain in. And you look at all the opportunities that you missed out long term because you sold too early. And your perspective starts to change. Where it's like, okay, this may be 2 bad years, but over 15 years, what am I going to do? And that's where it goes back to like me thinking about this 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan and not just a 6-month, 1-year plan and just how your thinking changes over different time horizons.
Dude, I got to introduce you to one of my best friends in the entire world. I don't need to say where he works, but long and short of it is he manages $5 billion. All right. But their whole portfolio is 50. All right. So hear me out. COVID happens. They go negative 50 billion, bro. Like 2 weeks after, right? Their positions are just trash.
Oh my gosh.
He calls me. Now they got to work from home too. So he calls me. He's just had a baby. He's managing five bill. 9 months later, they're up 50 bill. Dude, I am so fascinated that the huevos and the knowledge that it takes to emotionally do that. I said, what's the craziest thing you ever seen in your life? He said, I watched a guy lose $350 million in one trade in one day, and he didn't get fired. And he goes, what the boss say? The boss said, hey, that was a very expensive mistake. You going to do it again? No. All right, get back to work. And I am so fascinated to be able to press the button and to do that, right? And so what I've come to realize is that it never feels easier. You just get better at making the decision emotionally. That's my only theory. I don't know what to do. I mean, obviously he's smart and they have algorithms and all that stuff. But every time I can talk to him, I'm just like, dude, I ask him, like, he has a very different view on the economy. He's like super pessimistic, like by nature. Yeah. And I'm like, let's get on the horseback and ride through the town and pick up all the the short-term rentals. And he's like, dude, you need to calm down, bro. Like, that's why he's going to manage my money, because I need somebody like that in my life to say, whoa, 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 right? But he also understands that my conviction can push over the envelope when other times it can't. And so what I realized is that human behavior and human psychology is really the only skill that you need to study, because that's what you're dealing with in every aspect. Product buy, why are they buying the product? Why are they coming in? Why is the seller selling his business? Who's the buyer? What do they need? Like, who are you? What does your tech need? What does the manager need? These are the different layers that it's all comes down to nailing down everybody's aspect of what do they need and what are they after, right?
Yeah, you listen to any of the famous or big investors over time. The way they made money, by and large, I mean, I'm sure there's outliers. George Soros, he had a short bet on the pound. I don't know, in the 80s, he made $1 billion. Anyways, by and large, those guys who invest and who've become multi-billionaires, self-made, they're multi-billionaires because they studied behavior. Charlie Munger talks about this. Jeff Bezos talks about this. Warren Buffett talks about this, where human psychology is really a big part of their investment thesis. Mm-hmm. So if you can understand the psychology, you're better informed when you're placing bets. Obviously, you need to understand how businesses work. Obviously, you need to understand the macroeconomic environment. But like you said, it's the human psychology piece of it, especially as small business owners. Can you run an effective team? Can you manage people? Can you recruit and retain? Because if you can't, you're not going to be able to run a business for very long. You're always going to be kind of in that war mode. So I love the way you think about it. It's
same as you ever was or ever are by Morgan Housel is an amazing book, because it basically highlights that. Is you're saying that there's this unique event that's happening, and I'm telling you there's 10 events behind it that have already happened. He's like, nobody predicted the Great Depression. Nobody. There wasn't one person. He goes to all these smart people, and you're telling me they didn't know? And he basically steps you through the whole thing of like, we say that it's different. Look, when 2008 happened, I go, yeah, they'll get a slap on their hand, and 2 years from now, they'll be doing the same shit they were doing before. Like, and they did. And I said, we had the hurricanes in Texas, and people were using their FEMA checks to buy TVs. And I'm like,
oh, geez.
Well, there you go. I mean, and so the question that you have to ask yourself is, what are the signs showing you? What is that person's behavior? What is the market showing you? And then protect. Anytime you meet a big investor, they never care about the return on money. They only care about one thing and only one. Where am I going to lose my money?
Yeah.
Where am I going to lose my money?
What's my downside here?
What's my downside? So when you go to, every little boy's and girl's dream is to sell a company, right? And the emotional roller coaster of doing that, I'm sure, is his own TV series in itself. But talk about what I've always prided myself in is not to focus on the dollar amount, is to focus on executing something from start to finish. I started a company, I ran it, we got to this number, and then I sold it. So now you saw a full cycle. Do you always have that level, that jar of confidence to pull from, knowing that you went from A to Z to see it through?
I do now. I definitely didn't appreciate that in the past. And that's why I'm grateful. A lot of guys talk about, they just jumped into entrepreneurship, never had any experience. That wouldn't have worked for me. I learned a lot of lessons on somebody else's dime that were really, really important. And one of the lessons that I learned was always make sure your business is in a position where it can sell. It doesn't need to, like you don't need to sell, but you want to always be in a position where you can sell. And so with my home health and hospice company in particular, we started from scratch, built it. That was always a thought in my mind. How do I make sure the culture's good? How do I make sure operations are good? How do I make sure that this is a sustainable business without me? I brought in an operator. And so when we sold to the company that we sold to, and that's where I am right now, actually. They've kidnapped me. But they wanted me to stay on for they wanted me to stay on for
they are not releasing you until you hand over the customer list.
No.
Sorry, sir.
So they want me to stay on for a period of time, and that's what they talk about. Hey, this is the best transition we've had in years. Mm-hmm. Oh wow, the billing and collections is great. Oh, the census is still growing. Like, and that's something that I've been really proud of that I didn't think about before selling the company.
Yeah.
And so, and that's how everything that I go into, even when we're starting, is like, okay, I know it's messy, but let's make sure we have a clean accounting system. Let's make sure we have the bank account set up. Let's make sure we have the entity set up. This may fail, that's fine, but doing this work up front makes it so much easier on the back end. And then we don't have to worry about those things on the back end. We can worry about growth, product development, team, etc. Not why is our accounting suck?
This is, guys, open up the ears. This is a 41-year-old man, newly 41-year-old man telling you the things that I thought were sexy in my 20s. No thanks. It's the stuff that's like, everybody thinks my role as CEO is like fun. My role as CEO is boring as freak. They don't need me until they need me. And when they need me to come in guns a-blazing, putting out fires. But the stuff that if I could go back and do it again is all the stuff that you're talking about. HR, AR, accounting, bookkeeping. Yeah. Dude, a proper bookkeeper is worth 30x. Dude, System 6, Chris Williams has built one of the best companies I've ever been a part of. And that relationship happened because we played golf for 2 hours. And I watched this guy miss. Now, he didn't miss. He was late to wedding dress shopping with his fiance because he wanted to win so bad, and we kept tying. And he made it. But we won $100 a piece. And now we'll probably do business for the next 20 years because I saw how much he cared about every little detail. And if you're going to own a bookkeeping company and you're going to spend 5 hours with somebody, you're going to know a lot about that person in that time span. And those are the areas that I think is the most exciting to me. HR, and not exciting in like, I'm excited I get to do this, but excited when it goes well.
Yeah. Well, and those are the areas that help you sleep at night. Like there's enough crap that you have to deal with as a CEO. There's enough. I don't want to have to deal with why is our P&L messed up. Yeah. I don't want to have to deal with. I mean, there's a term in sports, right? Unforced errors. Mm-hmm. We should have the stuff that we can control controlled. We should make sure that we're billing and collecting. We should make sure that people are onboarded appropriately and they have a good orientation program. Like we should make sure that there's a good culture and a good vibe. Like control the things you can control because you can't control the market. You can't control what your competitor is going to do. You can't control the macroeconomic environment. Like you can't control those things. And if you have crappy systems, when those outside things start impacting you, it's an amplifying effect. Then you're playing from behind the entire time. So I really try to focus on making sure that we have good, clean systems up front so that we never have to spend any emotional time or energy on that stuff.
What is the lesson that you learned the most growing businesses and selling it that nobody talks about enough? What's that?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. What's the lesson that I learned the most growing and selling businesses that nobody talks about? I mean, they start to talk about it now, but the unsexy things, right? Like you think it's going to be, oh, I negotiated this business and I closed it. And now I've got an operator. I should find an operator and they're going to operate the business. I had my brother-in-law as my operator for the medical billing company. And that was a really hard relationship to work through. Mm-hmm. Really hard for a number of reasons. I won't get into all of them, but nobody talks about how you're supposed to handle stuff when stuff goes wrong. All they talk about is like, okay, things are going well. This is what you should do next. Like, okay, but like, what happens when two of my key employees quit? What happens when the previous owner starts competing? What happens when I got to fire a family member? What happens when I have no cash and I've got to make payroll? What do I do? Do I use my credit card? Do I go and try to borrow money from people? Like, do I take a HELOC? Nobody talks about that stuff. So I think those portions are surprising to me that we don't talk about them more. Yeah, I don't know if that was a good answer or not, but
No,
that's
it was amazing. It's the perfect answer because you're 100% spot on. So if people want to follow along with you, they want to find your funny post on Twitter, and they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Co-founders Nik, all one word.
Guys, I didn't even know his real name until today. So thank you for putting on there. And
You're welcome.
I have called in. I have some friends out of Texas who do private security and special forces. They are coming to rescue you out of your rescue situation.
Please. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been blinking in Morse code this whole time. I hope you got my message.
Guys, if you're just listening, you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's a funny joke all the same.
Yeah.
Guys, if you enjoyed this, send it to a friend, share it around, rate us and review us, and we'll see you next time.